Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Peter Burkin here with me today. How you doing, Peter?
Good morning, Cedric. I'm doing great, thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
Without a doubt, we are in episode 141, everybody. Episode 141. So I can't say thank you enough. You all have been here with us for 141 episodes, and this morning is no different. Peter, talk to us about where you're from.
I'm from Rochester, New York, upstate New York.
Okay. Good morning, Chastity. Good morning, Yolanda. We have people coming into the building. They're saying good morning.
Good morning.
Were you actually born in Rochester, New York, Peter?
Born and raised, yes.
What was it like for you growing up in Rochester, New York?
It was good. I lived in the suburbs in West Irondequoit, minutes from Lake Ontario.
Okay.
And it was kind of magical right throughout. Even though I started off in private school, it got a little different after a while. So,
okay. Ladies and gentlemen, when he says he's from Rochester, New York, he's not talking about the subways, the taxis, the smog, and the busyness. He's talking about upstate New York, where it's potentially a lot different from what people are used to when they think of New York. Now, you said it was magical. What about it was magical? Can you break that down for us?
Sure. I started off in parochial school, so I was like king in the mountain when I went there. And then what happened is my dad died in 9979. And when he died, when I was that kind of young, I transferred into the public schools because I was getting a little bit of trouble in the parochial school.
Okay. Now, what is a parochial school?
It's a private Roman Catholic school and church that I went to.
Okay. All right. So you transferred into a pretty much a regular public school.
Yes.
All right. And what was the big difference that you noticed?
Well, I got bullied in the public schools because I was a bit different. I wore Coke bottle glasses. I wore the same dress code every day with the blue and khakis every day. So people would come at me a little bit verbally and try to fight me at times. So I had to learn how to bully proof myself.
I'm going to say right now that this is a very important conversation that we're getting ready to have. I can already tell that you are someone who speaks for voices that we've never heard before. Millions of young men and women, because of their glasses or simply because they wore the same pair of clothes every day to school, have been bullied. You decided to speak out about that and to create a system of bully proofing. Is that correct?
That is correct, Cedric.
So what I'd like for you to do, Peter, is I want you to give us the picture, the events that took place for you. What were people doing? Were they simply cracking jokes? Were they putting their hands on you? What was happening?
It was everything from verbally wanting to fight me, where I had to threaten back. There was times where I would have to fight. I actually went out for the lacrosse team in the spring because I moved in halfway through the year. I was the only kid cut from the lacrosse team that year. They were trying to hit me to the ground, and I refused to get hit to the ground. Physically, I was a little bigger, and I was just like, nope, you could hit me all you want, but you're not going to knock me to the ground. But I just couldn't catch the lacrosse ball. That's the only thing.
So because you were not very athletic and because you didn't know how to box, it doesn't mean that you weren't tough.
I grew up boxing and played 3 sports, but it was all in different sports in the parochial system, except for basketball. So when I went into public school, it was lacrosse, football, and basketball, where I played softball, basketball, and soccer in parochial school.
Okay. All right. Did you have any conversations with other friends or teachers? How did you begin to manage the fact that you were being bullied?
I used to tell my peer group that I could take good care of myself. So the word got out that you better stay away from me a little bit. I had two of my future friends, they became friends, threatened to hurt me one day. And I said, you know, I accept the challenge. Not only will I beat up one of you, but I will beat up both of you at the same time. And I felt confident at that because I did grow up boxing and I was ready to beat both their ears in. So, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, feel free to drop questions and comments and support in the chat because Peter Burkin is not playing any games. He said, I'm willing to beat both of your ears in. Hey,
right.
you got to stand up for yourself. And it's important not only to stand up for yourself, but to continue to persevere, to move toward a positive lifestyle. Don't become the bully simply because you were bullied, but it's still okay to speak up for yourself and stand up for yourself. And it's important to have conversations about how to do that.
That is right.
Yeah, that's right. So, Peter, what did school look like for you in, let's say, the 6th grade? What was going on?
Well, in 6th grade, I was supposed to move to North Carolina. Then my father had a heart attack that kept us in Rochester, New York. When I went back to the private school, they're like, what are you doing back at school? I was just like, well, you know what? A couple of days later, my dad died. It was like the first loss of our community in a death like that. So people are like, oh, you know, this is the reason why he couldn't move. It was because his dad wasn't doing well at the time. So that was 6th grade. And then 7th grade started up. Getting in too much trouble is when I went into the middle school and the public school. Now, after I got cut from that lacrosse team, I started hanging around the wrong crew. We called them cliques in the suburbs versus a gang. But these guys were using like cigarettes and alcohol and stuff like that. And I didn't agree with that. So what I did over time is I changed my peer group. And the way that I did that is I didn't go up for the soccer team because my self-esteem was still low because I got cut from the lacrosse team. But right when the winter came, close to, I went out for the basketball team. Not only did I make the team, but I started every game. I didn't come off the court. And then from there, it led into 8th grade lacrosse season. And I went out for it again. This time I played with the 6-foot stick.
Okay.
And could catch both hands now. And I made the team. I actually went straight through college and became an all-star in college as well. So.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. What I hear you saying is that you were kind of naive in the beginning, coming from a parochial school. People were mistreating you, and you adapted by changing the aura that you were giving off to other people. You went from being somebody who might have been pretty much academic and athletic to academic, athletic, and confident. And you did that by saying, hey, listen, I don't want you to call me Peter anymore. Call me Pete. By the way, those comments you've been making in the hallway, I'm all game for them. And at the same time, you continue to excel at school and sports to the point where you were able to sit at different tables in the lunchroom, if you will.
That is correct.
What were your thoughts about life as you graduated high school? Who did you want to become? What was going on with you?
That's a great question. My senior year, I didn't even know if I was going to college or not. It wasn't until the spring season that coaches started recruiting me. So every time a coach came, I got pulled out of class, and the coaches were trying to have me play lacrosse in college. So that got me interested in the idea of playing college lacrosse.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have 5 sisters and 3 brothers. One, God rest his soul. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you pretty much had a big family.
I did.
What were your dynamics like in the house?
I was 8 out of 9, and my older brothers, my dad used to bully me a bit, which toughened me up. Because back then, we toughened people up to get ready for a vicious world. And I see it different now. But what I did is I learned how to box, wrestle. We used to have to box on our knees so we wouldn't break the lamps in the living room. That's how violent we were at home.
Wow. You know, we used to put socks inside of larger socks, and we would slap each other with them.
Yeah, we had a boxing bag and a speed bag, so we used boxing gloves.
Wow. Okay, so you were pretty good at that then.
I was.
What are some of your favorite boxers of all time?
Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, and I thought George Foreman had a lot to say when he came back to be a heavyweight champion at the age he did. So those three guys especially. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And of course Rocky Balboa, but he was fictional, right?
Right. But Rocky Balboa was based off a real boxer. You know that?
Yes, I did know that.
Mm-hmm. What did you think about Hagler versus Hearns?
You know, the thing is, the boxing in the 80s was outstanding and everything. It was when Tyson came in and started knocking people out in one round like that. Mm-hmm. Hearns and Hagler, I don't know them as much as the heavyweights were big in my life. I enjoyed watching the heavyweights. So, yeah.
Hearns and Hagler potentially had one of the greatest fights in boxing of all time. And people have said that first round of their first fight was the greatest round of boxing that we had ever seen. Mm. Did you take anything from the styles of people like Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, George Frazier? Did you learn from their styles and incorporate any of what they meant or did into your own personality?
Yes, I think so. Rocky Balboa, for instance, could go right and left. I wanted to make sure I was symmetrical. I could give it to you right-handed as well as I could my left hand. Okay,
right. What's your favorite punch?
It's going to be not even a punch. It's going to be snapping my wrist on the crown of your nose.
Ooh. Is that illegal in boxing?
It probably is, but I'm talking about the streets now.
Right, yeah. I asked you that because there was a controversial fight not too long ago between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, and it looked as though Tyson Fury might have been whipping his gloves a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So your favorite move is the whip at the crown of the nose, which is a very sensitive area of the face.
That's right.
All right. What college did you go to?
I went to Nazareth College in Pittsford, New York, which is a suburb in Rochester, New York.
All right. And what did you go there for?
Believe it or not, I was chemistry major, secondary education, and I also wanted to be a Spanish major. But my advisor's like, nah, you got to take second year Spanish. I'm like, nah, I'm not taking second year Spanish. I want to take intro to Spanish. You know, I never took an advanced placement class in my lifetime. I wanted to take the first year Spanish.
Right.
So he derailed me from my third of my dream. I wanted to coach, do chemistry, and be a Spanish major. So that advisor tripped me up like that. Third of my dream was held up because of his influence on me. Yeah.
What do you think about guidance counselors and the role that they play in that space between your senior year in high school and college? Where do they fall short?
They fall short because they're doing a lot of administrative stuff like scheduling people's schedules. And I don't know what they do after that when they come to anything, because they didn't guide me into anything like college. It was like, graduate from high school and the next thing's really up to you. So I didn't see too much on the guidance counseling stuff. We as a peer group and the athletes decided to do our thing based on the peer group we ran with. We were all deciding, you know what, let's go play college lacrosse or football. Next thing you know, we all chose to play in college as well.
Okay. There are 444,000 youth in a foster care system. Many of them are trying to figure out, how do I get from middle school to the rest of my life? Can you talk to them about how you dealt with the social influences, how you dealt with, changing schools, changing environments, losing your father? Can you provide some words of encouragement to them today?
Absolutely. One thing is, you're 100% responsible for your actions. Jack Canfield said that in a Success Principle book. So basically what it is everything starts with a thought. All right. The first part of creation is thought. Then we attach a judgment on the thought, and we express ourselves either through words or actions. And when we do that, we get desired results. Hopefully, they're good actions to get good outcomes. So, my thing is, yes, you want to live in the moment and enjoy what you're doing in the moment. At the same time, you got to take responsibility that there's more to life than the party. There's more to life than in the moment, be sexual, anything that's awesome in the moment. But no, there's a future ahead of you too, Cedric. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Sure.
You might have a lot of good time today, but you want to make sure you're paving yourself way to having a successful future as well.
Sure. So let's expand this moment right here and make it a victory for the folks who are watching today and the folks who will watch in retrospect. Let's break down that formula that you gave us so that people can apply it in their lives starting today. You said everything starts with a thought. Can you give us an example of a thought that somebody could start with?
A thought could be, I don't like that person because of the way they look.
Okay.
And that's a judgment on them. Yep.
Okay. See, I interpreted that in a different way because in my life, I had to start with a thought. Out of everything I went through, and for those people who don't know, I spent years of my life in foster care. I was adopted at the age of 15. I had several different changes to my life structure and my life format. And in order for me to put my adversities aside and achieve, I had to start with a thought. I want to say thank you to my mom out there. I want to say thank you to my sisters, my family, everybody who's helped me along the way, because I followed this formula right here. My thought was success is a choice. That was my thought. What I did with that thought was I put an anchor on it. The anchor was success is a choice because of what you've been through. Now, that might be an opinion. It might be a philosophy. It might be a judgment. Like you said, the second part is you need to attach a judgment to that thought. So if you're out there in the world, based on the formula that Peter gave us today by way of Jack Canfield, you need to think something positive that's going to help you. Yeah, you might be in foster care. You might be bullied. You might have lost your father last year. You might have lost your mother last year, and it might have you in shambles. But you need to make your next thought your best thought. You need to think something like success is a choice, something like the future is mine, something like I have to take control of my future, something like that. And then you add an anchor to it. Add a second clause to that comment. The future is mine because I'm going to the library. The future is mine because I'm going to Google how to take control of my future. Once you create a two-part comment in your life, you are now the third piece that makes that into a triangle. Triangles turn into squares, and when you spin squares, those squares turn into circles. And those circles, how they say, if you show me your circle, I'll show you your future. What do you think about that, Peter?
I love it. And too, Cedric, your past leaves clues. And if you look back at things, we can learn life lessons from them. And instead of letting them hold you back and hold you back, what you do is you learn and grow from them, reflect on it, get a good idea what happened. Why is that challenge in my life? And grow from it and persevere and overcome that challenge. And then in the moment, choose, because it's a choice, choose to do well in the moment based on, okay, I had this circumstances happen to me when I was a kid, or yesterday was bad, or my household was a little unsettling this morning. Doesn't mean I still can't have a great day. And being in the ever-present precious moment, the now. That's the gift we have, is the now. Like,
That's
for
right.
instance, what we have right now, this conversation, I'd rather be doing nothing on earth rather than being with you right now, Cedric, because I'm caught up in the moment.
Absolutely. And in this moment, we are dissolving the challenge of what you cannot do. We're dissolving the challenge of people having a negative influence or a bad influence on your life. We're dissolving that today. That's what we're using this moment to do. Now, Peter, can you talk to us about when you began to reflect, when you became introspective about the things that you went through and how you would overcome them. What was your one thought? What was your thought that really, created a pivot in your life?
My introspective was my brother was dating a hypnotherapist at the time. And she goes to me, Peter, what is the one thing holding you back? And I told her it was my anger.
Mm-hmm.
So she told me, that only one thought can come in your brain at a time. So anytime you think of a negative thought, replace it with a positive thought. Now, I've been doing that for over 15 years, Cedric. I went from a nasty, because what happens, hurt people. So I went from being the bully or getting bullied to being the bully to giving it more than you could imagine to anybody else, especially in sports. I was nasty. I'd go out to hurt you. It was just, it got to the point where I was spinning out of control because of my anger.
Right. See, this is the moment right here where you connect and relate to millions of people across the country. You were hurt, and then you became someone who was capable of hurting others. And at a certain point, whether it been on the field, usually probably was on the field, you reveled in the idea of hurting somebody else. And that hypnotherapist enlightened you to the fact that, hey, you have the power to change your thoughts. You don't have to only be the product of what happened to you. You can take control of your thoughts. And I think that right there is absolutely huge. I think some of us, we live a whole life and never think about controlling our thoughts. But you got into that, and then you did it for decades. You've been controlling your thoughts for decades.
That's correct.
How did you feel that muscle strengthening as you continue to control your thoughts? Did you realize that your control of your thoughts was like a muscle? Talk about it.
20 years ago, we're talking 20 years ago now, my anger hit a peak, meaning I used to do domestic violence with my wife and also my sister and brother. Now, the thing is, I used to posture on my wife, my ex-wife, and my brother, but I found out 5 years ago that I actually had my sister by the throat and I was squeezing her throat. That's messed up. I blacked out from that, Cedric. I didn't even know I did that. So sometimes when you keep family stuff behind closed doors, you're keeping them from learning and growing from it. It wasn't until about 4 years ago, after I took anger management class, my sister's like, you know what? You had me by the throat 20 years ago, 15 years ago back then. And I was just like, weren't you going to tell me about that? But there is a thing called blackout that people need to know about. Yep.
Mm-hmm. This is powerful. You became possessed by trauma. And on the surface, it looked like everything was happening right in your life. You went to parochial schools, you played lacrosse, you became an achiever, you went to college, you completed college, but you still had trauma under the surface. And it's not okay to make the generalization that people who live a life that looks like yours aren't dealing with trauma deep down inside. You dealt with that trauma. Can you talk to us about what that process was like for you? It must have been intense for you to deal with the trauma of your past so that you could finally gain control of yourself.
Right on. I first had to, Cedric, acknowledge that I had issues. It was nice that my brother's girlfriend at the time pointed it out that it was anger I need to have to overcome. So the first thing was to acknowledge that I had the problem. Mm-hmm. The next thing is I had to reframe it and learn from the past why this all came to fruition, came to be. And then from there, I had to release it, or I call it abolish it. I had to abolish those thoughts and not make it part of me anymore. And then lastly, I call it the 4 A's, by the way. The last thing was arsenal. I had to give myself every tool, skill, process, technique that I could learn in order to cope with my disposition.
Mm-hmm.
I had to control my dominion. I had to control my dominion, man. I had to take charge.
There you go. Take charge. This is huge. Let's go back over it and let's break it down for people who are dealing with anger issues. See, a lot of us are dealing with this right now. This is a mainstream conversation we are having right now. If you are following us on YouTube, Facebook, watching us on Roku TV, Apple TV, or Android TV, we appreciate you. This is what we do. We dig deep, we uncover the value, then we unpack it, then we repack it. So everybody walks away a better person. Now, Peter, you said that you had to acknowledge your issues. That was tough. You had to acknowledge your issues. What was next after that? You acknowledged your issue. What was next after that?
And then what I did is I had to reframe it, or I also call it take another angle at it. What's another angle I could look at it? Why was it in my life? Why did that experience, challenge have to come into my life? So I had to take every angle to see why it was going on. I didn't like say, oh, my past is in the past. I was actually reckoning with it. I was learning and growing from it.
Mm-hmm. Just like a crossword puzzle.
Yes.
You got to look. It can't just be I'm doing this. You've got to look at why am I doing this? All different angles of why am I doing this in order to understand it, because the more you understand it, the more power you gain to remove it. So what was next? You look at every single angle, and then what's next?
I taught in a city for 20 years, so I use the word abolish. You have to abolish it from your mind. You have to relinquish it. You got to let it go, because here's the bottom line. It's only going to grow on you. It's going to fester. And the thing is, next thing you know, you're going to start spinning out of control. And the next thing you know, you're going to not even know. You're not even in control your dominion anymore, yourself anymore. So you have to abolish it. You have to literally eradicate it from your brain.
That's right. And you would not know that you could eradicate it from your brain if you weren't into being able to control your own mind. And this is what makes this such a powerful discussion that we just had, is that there's people out there who have these symptoms. They have anger issues. They have all different types of issues, but they don't think that it can change because they don't have control over their minds. You're not always going to run into a mentor or a coach who's dynamic enough to get inside of your dominion and rearrange your pantry. Sometimes you've got to rearrange your own pantry, and that's called controlling your own mind. So what we learned today was that you've got to acknowledge your issue. You've got to understand all the different angles that explain why you're doing what you're doing. And then you've got to take it upon yourself to abolish it. I think that that's very important. People get paid millions of dollars to explain that what you've explained to us in the first half of this show. And we're going to learn more from you right after this brief message. America's Next Motivator. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator. Hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network. Let's go. And we're right back at it. Peter, how you feeling out there?
I love it, man. Cedric, I feel great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. I got to say that, people become world famous for explaining what is the secret, the way that you did before the break. That was the reason why I said let's break this down. People get paid a lot of money, and they're upheld clear across the world for explaining to people how you don't have to allow mediocrity, failure, low self-esteem in your dominion. Peter, what is the dominion? What is it?
It's your essence. It's your being. We're human beings trying to do this human experience. We have to be. I am. Those affirmations like I am powerful. I am a miracle. I am handsome. Those I am statements, those affirmations in the law of attraction world, those are the things that are going to hopefully resonate with your brain. And if they don't, you got to eliminate your limiting beliefs in order to start not only think it, but believe it, and then let it go into your subconscious mind, the brain, and say, you know what? I'm going to manifest whatever's on my mind because I'm taking control, my dominion, my brain. Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to connect these dots right here. We have Banky Pound in the building as well. Banky Pound learned this lesson over the course of a deep life. He completed 33 years in prison, and he understands very well that you have to be able to control your dominion. What I want to ask you, Peter, is does everybody have a dominion, or is it only certain people who have a dominion?
Everybody has a spirit in them. They have energy in them. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. Mm-hmm. So we're basically infinite beings right now. And science and quantum physics and epigenetics shows how powerful of a being we are. Spirituality and science is like right here, right now in the present moment, saying that we're going to just keep existing here. Now, whatever your belief system is a whole nother story. What do you believe when this energy exists in this body, stops existing in this body? What's the next chapter of your existence? And another thing is Mel Robbins used to say, we're 1/400 trillion chance of being born in this body right now. So we're all just miracles if you think about it that way.
Absolutely. We've not always believed in a dominion. In fact, if you've been in different parts of society where people feel disadvantaged, you might have never thought that you've had dominion. But in 2021, it's a clear fact that everybody has a dominion, and that you need to be in there working and reworking the tools that are in your tool belt. Your dominion is your soul. Your dominion is your aura. Your dominion is what people call personal space. You are a star in your own space. What you've got to do is you've got to control that space. You've got to control that space. Right now, physicists are confirming that space exists. Metaphysicists are confirming that space exists, and the general public is confirming that space exists. Where are you out there? All of our supporters and viewers, where are you on the reality that you have a dominion that you need to control, articulate, and show people how you want it to be treated? Where are you on that? Peter, in regards to this dominion right here, do you think that it's something that we need to protect? Do you think that it's something that we need to raise awareness about? Or do we just let some people realize that they have a dominion and other people live a whole life without realizing that they have a dominion?
Everything starts with love. It starts with awareness. And we need to start teaching this stuff in public schools, especially, that we're sitting on infinite type powers and wisdoms beyond anyone is ready to give us credit for.
Whoa. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get some likes and hearts in the building right now, because Peter Burkin is bringing it. Peter Burkin is bringing it this morning. He just said that we all need to acknowledge our dominion, our soul, our aura in public schools. this is the part where I have to 100% identify with this conversation right here. I believe young people are frustrated in schools clear across America because nobody's even mentioning their dominion. Nobody is acknowledging their dominion. No one is saying, hey, I want you to learn these lessons, but let's address your dominion first. No one's doing that. And I think that young people in schools clear across America, I was one of them. We are more fascinated with our own dominion than we could ever be with academic subject matter. That is until we realize that the academic subject matter is going to be the way that we're going to save our lives. It's going to be the way we're going to save our dominion. But how long do we spend caught up in our own dominion? We don't talk about it. We don't identify it. And therefore, we can't control it. So you got people out there, they got dominion problems. We call those people, they have ego problems. They're egotistical, you know? Some people care so much about their own dominion, we call them narcissists. And then we say narcissists are some of the most dangerous people in our lives. Lo and behold, the secret to success is understanding your dominion, mastering it even. Go ahead, Peter.
We need to know what our purpose is, and we need to have self-love. There's a difference between loving ourselves in a vain way where it actually obstructs our progress versus having enough self-respect, self-love. And I also call it bully-proof. You need to bully-proof yourself. And the way you bully-proof yourself is by taking control of your thoughts. And then what happens is when you have good, pure thoughts and your words are impeccable, well, next thing you know, you're going to start attracting the right people around you. And the bullies are going to go away. I know it is. They're just going to go away. They're either going to just think that this guy's not even dealing with this kind of stuff, or they're going to be like, we got to go pick on somebody else because this guy's not feeling it. Yep. His thoughts aren't, he's congruent with his words. And the thing about it is he is bully proof. I literally, it fell off my life. Like I'll give you, for instance, my Facebook pages are all just loving, just completely loving. Mm-hmm. There's no one coming at each other. There's no negativity. And it's just like happy and harmony, even on Facebook, which you could achieve by searching out the right peer groups, your sphere of influence, who you hang out with. You attract what your thoughts and your words are saying in your action.
You know, there's got to come a day, and today is that day, where we get credit for our dominion. We got to look at each other and say, you're worth $1 million. Not to be facetious, that you're not also worth $1 billion and $1 trillion and $1 zillion. But the basic idea that you're worth a lot. You're worth a whole lot. We got to look at each other and say, you're worth a whole lot. We've got to go into schools clear across America, and we've got to make it a standard that each and every student here is worth a whole lot. And I think that once we establish that, beyond all shadow of a doubt, we need to incorporate it in policy. We need to incorporate it in law. We need to incorporate it in civic understanding that a person is worth a whole lot. We need to give them credit for that. Once you get credit for your dominion, I guarantee self-respect will go up, self-love will go up, and everybody will be more focused on growing their lives than they would be on damaging the lives of others. Now, you mentioned the concept of bully proofing. And Banky Pound is in this conversation as well. He says, I created this program called Rehab, which stands for Reevaluating Habits and Behaviors, something we all have to do at one point or another. That's absolutely correct. Now, you created a bully proofing method. Can you talk about that? What is that?
Yes. I'm a certified passion test facilitator. So what I do is help people find the purpose in life by taking the passion test. That's number one. I also teach a mastery of self-love course. Now, the passion test is 3 hours. The mastery of self-love is 4 hours. In a matter of one lunch, 7 hours, and a couple of biological breaks, I can straighten people out like that. 8 hours. Okay. Give me an 8-hour day with our high school kids and our youth. And I'll tell you right now, they can completely transform in 8 hours. and start loving themselves and bully-proof themselves.
Okay. Let's do a role play. By the way, I'm feeling you. I'm feeling your mission. I'm feeling that what you set out to do. It's not easy to say that we have a dominion and everybody deserves credit for it, and I'm going to help everybody get in line with their dominion. But it's definitely not easy to create a way to do that. So let's do a role play, okay? I am a young man. I am angry. I am being bullied. I am bullying others, and I don't care about my future. Please take a couple minutes and work on me.
First of all, Cedric, I'd say right up front, I love you. I love you. And I thank you for having, what I love about young people is they listen well. So that I love you resonates with them enough to listen to you now. And the thing is, when you look in someone dead in the eyes, Cedric, you're looking into their essence, you called it their being. It's the connection. Namaste. You know, it's one story I had is I went into our county jail where I taught there, and I was hoping I'd have my students show up. You could hear my thoughts and my energy was all about getting to those kids and making a difference that day. Now, kids, they were adults at that point. They were up to 20 years old, 21 almost. But the thing about it is I only had one student show up there, Cedric, and I asked him permission. I go, do you mind if I read from my journal? Because I've been all excited about coming here and teaching just you or more today. You have me today. So I read him a quote and he started crying, man. This grown man was crying. I said, thank you for showing me that you have the feelings that you do. And I said, you know what we're going to do? Because I started off namaste, and he was just like, what do you mean by namaste? I said, your spirit and my spirit are one, man. We are just one. And that led into my quote. That led into doing all the subjects that day. That led into another quote near the end of the day where he started crying again. It was literally based on love, man. It was building rapport. It was getting his buy-in. And literally one experience like that can change the whole direction of a person's life.
Peter Burkin is creating the love department. We live in a world full of stricture. Do this, don't do that. Do this, don't do that. And there are people out here who have been hearing do this and don't do that so much that they're at a breaking point. Nobody knows it. The pressure is so immense that they're ready to pop. And so when someone like Peter comes along and says, namaste, I love you, let's connect, it breaks people down. It's like the pin that busts the bubble, because it's that one interaction that people really, really, really need. What's next? You tell me that you love me. You read some of your philosophy. So now I'm crying. Are you going to give me a box of Kleenex? What's next?
The next thing is to acknowledge them, to validate their feelings as well, and saying thank you. Another powerful statement. Thank you for sharing your expression with me. Next thing you know, let's see what we can do to learn our lessons today so we can go back to connecting even more with quotes, positive quotes, right? Mm-hmm. And then from there, we can just keep growing together in our relationship, and then taking that message and then sharing that gift with other people.
Okay. What are some of the selections that you think have an impact on people? Maybe it's a selection out of a book. Maybe it's a selection out of your journal. What are some of the things that you say to really get through to people?
Well, for instance, Martin Luther King says, it is right to do what is right now. I kind of changed it, but it is right to do what is right now. Because this is all we have right now, Cedric, is the present now.
That's right.
Unwrap that bow and that gift, because that's what we have, and that's all we have. We could blame the past or project the future that could be a little bit of worry or panic, but it's like, nah, ground yourself in the now, direct all your attention, focus in the now, and you will find that Mother Nature cooperates and everything just starts to unfold miraculously with synchronicity. And the next thing you know, you find joy in life, happiness and fulfillment based on being in the now.
You know, Martin Luther King, I think Martin Luther King Day is not too far from now, by the way. He also said something that really stuck out to me. He said, for all outdoors and all our spaces, for all our different shapes and faces, for rich or poor, high or low, let's have freedom wherever we go. Freedom at last, let freedom ring. These were the words of Dr. Martin Luther King. He said that too. I think that the work that you're doing by respecting people's dominion and using that as a way to help them grow is bringing freedom about. It's liberating people. You're in the work of liberating people. And I think that's great.
Thank you.
Do you have a website? Do you have did you start a business? How can people find you and how can people work with you?
You could find me with my email address, which is pburkin, BURKIN @gmail.com, or you could friend me up on Facebook or LinkedIn, Peter Burkin.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Everybody out there, get in touch with Peter Burkin. He's somebody who can come into the school. He can come into an agency, an organization, and he can do an extremely powerful thing. Now, you said that you were a substitute teacher as well?
Nah, I was a full-time teacher. I used to sub K through 12, kindergarten through 12th grade. And
Wow.
I worked in all the facilities from foster care to jails to our long-term suspended school. I could go literally as a sub into any school, in any classroom, and have mastery of management like that in a snap.
Wow. You know, that's what a lot of teachers can't do. They can't master the environment. They don't know how to effectively manage the environment, especially when you have a bunch of kids that don't want to listen. Do you have any advice or tips for teachers out there who are trying to figure out how to manage their classroom? And as we know right now, a lot of them are trying to manage a virtual classroom, which is tough too.
That's right. You have to lead with compassion and empathy. The thing is, when I graduated from college, they taught and trained this brain here to not smile till June.
Wow.
Not smile to June. They programmed me to think it was to be hard and firm and consistently firm and not show my passion and my love for the kids. The thing is, I remember I had a principal that says, Peter, the students fear you. And I said, Mr. Weiner, with all due respect, I don't fear nothing. So you got me wrong there. And then on top of that, I will literally step in front of a shooter in front of my students to save their life over mine. So that's not fear, my man. That's not fear. That's the love for my students. And I'll tell you right now, Cedric, that school right there was off the cuff. After college, I was being threatened to be killed. I actually had a kid had a razor blade under his tongue and rolled it off. He said, I could kill you. I had a teacher threaten to kill me, said he had a gun in the glove box. All sorts of stuff going on in this long-term suspended school. But the thing about it is, it was in 1994 and 95, which I was able to bully the kids back to gain control of that school. I actually had the United Kingdom of England, of all places, coming to see in my classroom what I had going on, what I was doing in my class. Now, mind you, back then you could physically do things to kids. You could verbally threaten kids. You can't do that anymore, which I applaud that. If you lead with compassion and empathy, you don't need all those scare tactics. You don't need those ones of I'll intimidate you. You don't need that. You lead with love and respect, and you'll get the respect back. You know, I used to go into a classroom and I could literally pick on any kid and go, come here. Biggest kid usually, Cedric, come here. And I would say to them, look it, man, you box, don't you? And guess what they would say, Cedric?
Yes.
Yeah, how'd you know I boxed? because I know. And then the other thing is, the next day, the young man, this was subbing now, the next day he brought his golden glove from New York State, brought his gold glove, boxing glove. The third day, one of the students swore at me. He chased him out of the room and chased him down, man. I only taught there for 3 days, and that young man was all about doing whatever he wanted me to. You know what I'm saying? There was that mutual respect there.
We can feel strength, and we respect strength, and we look for strength. There are places, there are rooms where nobody's going to listen to you if you're not strong. And what I hear from you today, Peter, is that you are a strong man, and you connect with others on the basis of strength, the belief in strength. And I think it's the belief in strength that can unite people who might not have been able to come together if it was just going to be the leader is strong and everybody else is weak. That is a paradigm that's got to go. We've got to acknowledge everybody's strong, and we need to combine at our strengths, overcome our flaws, and combine at our strengths. That's what our whole society needs to do. Everybody's got a flaw. You need to overcome it, and then you need to combine with the person next to you at their strengths. And that's what I see you doing, which is very powerful. I've got a few questions for you, though, as we round third base. The first question, what's next for Peter Burkin? What's next for you?
Well, before I say that, we're all created equally, Cedric. And the thing about it is, I can be as good as teacher as anybody else. I don't care if it's your religion, your color, your skin, or whatever. I can be effective in a full classroom of Latinos and African Americans, and also have great control because they know that I love them, I care for them, and I'll do anything for them. So I wanted to go over that a little bit. You know, a lot of people say, well, we need African Americans to teach African Americans. Yeah, that's outstanding. I love that. But we are all created equally, and I can do as equal good job as anybody else based on leading with love. So.
What do you say to teachers who might be afraid to go into a class full of African Americans or Latinos and in their profession? They're scared to go into that room.
Let's gain control of the school so the kids stop bullying themselves, others, and our staff. We got to make sure we have the adults leading the school enough, but know that there's cooperation, that I can learn as much from my students as they can learn from me, because it's a reciprocal relationship. But after that, you won't have to worry about teachers scaring nobody, because there's mutual respect shows that we're going to be all good to each other versus thinking we have to be all over on somebody. Because here's the thing about it. Teachers get sick after a while, Cedric, because what happens is our kids get hurt. They get violent. They end up in the news. They end up dying on us and going to jail. Now, the thing about it is, when you get threatened or bit or hit that first day, you start to become sarcastic and cynical. That shouldn't happen in any school where you have to deal with that on your first day or more. It shouldn't happen anywhere. And the thing is, it goes on in our city schools, not only in Rochester, but throughout our country. And
Absolutely.
And they're getting over on us, the government, the churches, whatever. Let's call it out. I believe we need to break down the walls between church, government, and public schools. We need to start raising healthy children here. And you can't say politically we don't get involved with education. No, that's malarkey, man. That's malarkey. These are our kids that we have to start raising well.
So we have to begin to seek overall wellness. We need to seek whole wellness, clear across the board, from the family to the school to spiritual practice to the way that we run our society. We need to seek spiritual wholeness in all things. I think that I could see you motivating other teachers in the teachers' lounge to believe that they can go into any classroom and do that which they set out to do. All teachers need to be trauma informed. There are courses that you can take in order to understand how to work with young people or adults who have experienced trauma in a way that is safe and supportive. All teachers should be safe and supportive. They should also be kept safe and supported. My next question for you is, what is survival to you, Peter?
Survival, first of all, you got to make sure that you love yourself enough where you're not going to harm yourself, either drugs or alcohol. Or survival to me means you're making right choices at the right time. You're not getting into abusive relationships. You're actually staying healthy and acknowledging, okay, this isn't going too well. Well, what am I going to do to change my moment to make it healthy again?
I like that a lot. Survival is making the right choice at the right time. That's great. Where did you get that comment from?
I just made it up, Cedric.
Ladies and gentlemen, put some one emojis in the chat for Peter Burkin, because he just gave us an original thought. He didn't get that out of a book. He didn't read that before he came on today. That came right out of his mind. And it's stuff like that that allows him to connect with people organically. Survival is making the right choice at the right time. That was great. What is success to you?
Success means getting whatever's on your mind and letting it happen for you. That's success.
What is greatness to you?
Greatness to me, it's funny because the Green Bay Packers has that G on the side of their helmet, which means not Green Bay, it means greatness. So greatness to me, here's the thing about it. We're in a society where it's all win or lose. And I believe there needs to be balance in life.
Absolutely.
For me, there has to be that ribbon for that kid that participates. I believe that.
Yep.
If
That's
everyone's going to come into after school activities, we got to acknowledge that they're taking time in their day to be healthy, mind, body, and doing all that. Acknowledge.
That's right. Peter, I want to let you know that I've listened to your story today. I like how you faced yourself and addressed your flaws, and how you continue to have a positive impact on the lives of others. I'm going to give you a respect today while you're still living. And I'm going to give you your crown today while you can still receive it. Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat at this time. We are letting you know, Peter, letting the world know that you are America's next motivator.
Thank you, Cedric. Thank you
You're
for
very
letting
welcome.
me be on.
You're very
I will
welcome.
say one more thing, Cedric.
Real quick.
All my parents will be involved with our programs free of charge. They will not pay a single penny for anything I offer. They will be
absolutely
totally
all right.
Welcome to the program.
All right. Thanks for stopping by today, Peter.
Thank you, Cedric.
Pleasure. All right. Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Each and every episode of America's Next Motivator is going to have something here for you. All you've got to do is stop by and pick it up.